Hello and welcome to quiz class. Today we have 100 questions on the United States of America. So let's begin with question number 1. Which U.S. state is known as the last frontier? Wyoming, Alaska, or Montana? Alaska. What was the original capital of the United States? Philadelphia, New York City, or Boston? Philadelphia. Who was the only U.S. president to serve more than 2 terms? Woodrow Wilson, Theodore Roosevelt, or Franklin D. Roosevelt? Franklin D. Roosevelt. What U.S. city is known as the birthplace of jazz? Chicago, New Orleans, or New York City? New Orleans. In what year did the U.S. enter World War I? 1917, 1914, or 1916? (1917). Which U.S. president established the National Park Service? Theodore Roosevelt, Franklin D. Roosevelt, or Woodrow Wilson? Woodrow Wilson. Which U.S. state has the most active volcanoes? Hawaii, California, or Alaska? Alaska. What was the first state to ratify the U.S. Constitution? Delaware, Pennsylvania, or New Jersey? Delaware. What U.S. city was the first to use a subway system? Boston, New York City, or Chicago? Boston. Which American inventor is known as the father of the electric age? Nikola Tesla, Thomas Edison, or Alexander Graham Bell? Thomas Edison. What is the highest peak in North America? Denali, Mount McKinley, Mount Whitney, or Mount Rainier? Denali, Mount McKinley. In what U.S. state can you find the geographical center of North America? South Dakota, Nebraska, or North Dakota? North Dakota. Which U.S. state was the last to join the Union? Alaska, Arizona, or Hawaii? Hawaii. Who was the first American woman to go into space? Sally Ride, Mae Jemison, or Krista McCullough? Sally Ride. What is the largest freshwater lake in the U.S. by surface area? Lake Superior, Lake Michigan, or Lake Huron? Lake Superior. Which U.S. president signed the Emancipation Proclamation? Andrew Johnson, Ulysses S. Grant, or Abraham Lincoln? Abraham Lincoln. What city was originally the capital of California during the Gold Rush? San Francisco, Sacramento, or Monterey? Sacramento. In which U.S. state is the tallest tree in the world located? California, Oregon, or Washington? California. What U.S. state is known for having a significant Amish population? Ohio, Pennsylvania, or Indiana? Pennsylvania. Which U.S. president founded the University of Virginia? Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, or John Adams? Thomas Jefferson. Which U.S. state has no natural lakes? Nevada, Maryland, or Arizona? Maryland. Who was the first African American to serve on the U.S. Supreme Court? Clarence Thomas, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, or Thurgood Marshall? Thurgood Marshall. What U.S. state has the nickname Land of 10,000 Lakes? Michigan, Minnesota, or Wisconsin? Minnesota. Which U.S. state was the first to give women the right to vote? New York, Wyoming, or California? Wyoming. What is the oldest university in the United States? Harvard, Yale, or Princeton? Harvard. Which city hosted the first modern electric traffic light? Detroit, Michigan, New York City, or Cleveland, Ohio? Cleveland, Ohio. What was the first national monument declared in the United States? Devil's Tower, the Statue of Liberty, or the Grand Canyon? Devil's Tower. Who was the first Vice President of the United States? Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, or Alexander Hamilton? John Adams. Which U.S. city is known as the Windy City? San Francisco, Boston, or Chicago? Chicago. What is the smallest U.S. state by area? Delaware, Connecticut, or Rhode Island? Rhode Island. What is the name of the first permanent English settlement in America? Plymouth, Roanoke, or Jamestown? Jamestown. Who wrote the U.S. national anthem? Francis Scott Key, John Philip Sousa, or Irving Berlin? Francis Scott Key. Which U.S. state produces the most peaches? South Carolina, California, or Georgia? Georgia. What is the name of the largest island in the contiguous United States? Long Island, Whidbey Island, or Padre Island? Long Island. In what year was the U.S. Constitution ratified? 1787, 1788, or 1789? 1788. What is the only U.S. state to produce coffee commercially? Florida, Hawaii, or California? Hawaii. Which U.S. state has the longest coastline? Alaska, Florida, or California? Alaska. What was the first state to recognize Christmas as an official holiday? Mississippi, Alabama, or Georgia? Alabama. What U.S. landmark was a gift from France? The Liberty Bell, Mount Rushmore, or the Statue of Liberty? The Statue of Liberty. Who was the first female Supreme Court justice in the U.S.? Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Sonia Sotomayor, or Sandra Day O'Connor? Sandra Day O'Connor. What is the deepest lake in the United States? Crater Lake, Lake Tahoe, or Lake Superior? Crater Lake. Which U.S. state has the most national parks? California, Colorado, or Utah? California. What was the first capital under the U.S. Constitution? Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., or New York City? New York City. What year was the Louisiana Purchase completed? 1800, 1803, or 1801? 1803. Which U.S. city was the first capital of the Confederate States of America during the Civil War? Montgomery, Alabama, Richmond, Virginia, or Atlanta, Georgia? Montgomery, Alabama. What U.S. state was formerly known as the Republic of West Florida? Louisiana, Florida, or Texas? Louisiana. What is the only U.S. state that is an archipelago? Alaska, Hawaii, or Florida? Hawaii. What river forms part of the border between the U.S. and Mexico? The Colorado River, the Rio Grande, or the Mississippi River? The Rio Grande. Which president established Thanksgiving as a national holiday? George Washington, Franklin D. Roosevelt, or Abraham Lincoln? Abraham Lincoln. What major American city is famous for its Mardi Gras celebration? Mobile, New Orleans, or Houston? New Orleans. Which U.S. state has a unicorn on its state flag? Michigan, Maine, or Maryland? Michigan. Who was the second president of the United States? Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, or John Adams? John Adams. What is the U.S. state with the highest elevation east of the Mississippi? Tennessee, Virginia, or North Carolina? North Carolina. Which U.S. state is known as the Sunflower State? Nebraska, Kansas, or Iowa? Kansas. What U.S. city is known as the home of the blues? Chicago, Detroit, or Memphis? Memphis. Which state has a law system based on Napoleonic Code rather than English common law? Louisiana, Alabama, or Mississippi? Louisiana. What year did the U.S. land the first human on the moon? 1968, 1969, or 1971? 1969. What is the name of the U.S. naval base attacked in 1941 that led to the U.S. entering World War II? Guantanamo Bay, Pearl Harbor, or Midway Atoll? Pearl Harbor. Who was the American inventor known for developing the first successful steamboat? Eli Whitney, Samuel Morse, or Robert Fulton? Robert Fulton. Which U.S. state is home to the Hoover Dam? Arizona, Nevada, or Colorado? Nevada. What U.S. city is known as Music City, USA? Memphis, Nashville, or Austin? Nashville. Who was the youngest elected U.S. president? Theodore Roosevelt, Bill Clinton, or John F. Kennedy? John F. Kennedy. What is the only U.S. state where alligators and crocodiles coexist in the wild? Louisiana, Florida, or Texas? Florida. Which American city was destroyed by an earthquake in 1906? Los Angeles, San Francisco, or Seattle? San Francisco. What was the first U.S. state to host the Winter Olympics? Utah, New York, or Colorado? Colorado. Who was the first American to win a Nobel Prize in Literature? Sinclair Lewis, Ernest Hemingway, or William Faulkner? Sinclair Lewis. What U.S. state is known as the Pine Tree State? Maine, Vermont, or New Hampshire? Maine. Which president of the United States was a film actor before entering politics? Dwight D. Eisenhower, Richard Nixon, or Ronald Reagan? Ronald Reagan. What is the largest desert in the U.S.? The Mojave Desert, the Sonoran Desert, or the Great Basin Desert? The Great Basin Desert. Who was the first American author to win the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction? Ernest Poole, Upton Sinclair, or Edith Wharton? Ernest Poole. What U.S. city was the first to have a public school system? New York City, Philadelphia, or Boston? Boston. What is the only U.S. state with a Spanish motto? Montana, California, or New Mexico? Montana. Which U.S. state has the most presidents born there? Virginia, Ohio, or New York? Virginia. What major U.S. city was originally called New Amsterdam? Albany, New York City, or Philadelphia? New York City. What U.S. state is known as the Beehive State? Utah, Idaho, or Nevada? Utah. Who discovered the Mississippi River? Jacques Marquette, Louis Jollet, or Hernando de Soto? Hernando de Soto. What American city is the site of the oldest public park? New York City, Boston, or Philadelphia? Boston. Which U.S. state was the first to ratify the Bill of Rights? Delaware, New Jersey, or Maryland? New Jersey. What is the longest cave system in the United States? Carlsbad Caverns, Wind Cave, or Mammoth Cave? Mammoth Cave. Which president of the United States won a Pulitzer Prize? John F. Kennedy, Theodore Roosevelt, or Barack Obama? John F. Kennedy. What was the deadliest natural disaster in U.S. history? The Galveston hurricane of 1900, the San Francisco earthquake of 1906, or the Great Chicago Fire? The Galveston hurricane of 1900. At what number does the USA rank for hosting international students? First, second, or fourth? First. What is the oldest active military fort in the continental United States? Fort Monroe in Virginia, Fort McHenry in Maryland, or Fort Sumter in South Carolina? Fort Monroe in Virginia. Which U.S. state has the highest number of colleges and universities? California, New York, or Massachusetts? California. What year was the National Park Service established in the United States? 1906, 1925, or 1916? 1916. Which U.S. president is known for the New Deal? Woodrow Wilson, Franklin D. Roosevelt, or Harry S. Truman? Franklin D. Roosevelt. What is the U.S. state with the most lighthouses? Maine, Oregon, or Michigan? Michigan. Who was the U.S. president during the signing of the Camp David Accords? Ronald Reagan, Richard Nixon, or Jimmy Carter? Jimmy Carter. What U.S. state was the first to have a male-female governor? Texas, Wyoming, or Arizona? Wyoming. Which city is known as the garlic capital of the world? Fresno, California, Gilroy, California, or Bakersfield, California? Gilroy, California. What is the largest man-made reservoir in the U.S. by volume? Lake Mead, Lake Powell, or Lake Superior? Lake Mead. Who was the first U.S. astronaut to orbit the Earth? Neil Armstrong, John Glenn, or Alan Shepard? John Glenn. What is the U.S. state with the smallest population? Vermont, Wyoming, or Alaska? Wyoming. What U.S. city is known for the historic trial of the Boston Tea Party instigators? Philadelphia, New York City, or Boston? Boston. Which U.S. state is known as the birthplace of aviation? Ohio, North Carolina, or Kansas? Ohio. What is the oldest institution of higher education in the U.S.? Yale University, Princeton University, or Harvard University? Harvard University. Which U.S. state was originally part of Mexico before becoming a U.S. territory? California, New Mexico, or Texas? Texas. Who was the only U.S. president to resign from office? Lyndon B. Johnson, Richard Nixon, or Gerald Ford? Richard Nixon. What U.S. city is known as the biggest little city in the world? Reno, Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada, or Atlantic City, New Jersey? Reno, Nevada. And our last question. Which U.S. president established the Peace Corps? Lyndon B. Johnson, John F. Kennedy, or Dwight D. Eisenhower? John F. Kennedy. And our bonus question. What is the oldest public university in the United States? Let us know the answer in the comments and of course how well you did. Thanks for playing this quiz. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.